going to be the moderator for this to kind of forward this conversation. I've collected some cards, and I've listed some questions that the audience has. And the first question is for Ihsan's, I don't have my reading glasses, Sarfraz. Okay, sorry, I can't see all the letters. Could you address, you had talked about the basics of Islam and Islamic belief systems, but you didn't address the Shiite-Sunni, the Sunni-Shiite split that people talk about. Can you talk about Islamic beliefs and the Sunni-Shiite split that we hear so much about in the United States?
I think if you were to take a consensus and take a divide of the population, Muslim population, it would be 80% Sunni and 20% Shia throughout the globe. The divide, in my opinion, is mostly political, and it is used to, I think, well, to be honest, people have varying opinions, difference in their beliefs, and difference in their practices, and they're they differ between Shia and Sunni. But I personally believe that, as Brother Orzay was mentioning, that if you look at the common ground that is there between the two, it is often the difference is often used to exploit rather than the common things that can be used to bring them together. So there are the Sunnis and there are the Shias. In terms of fundamental principles, they're the same. There are differences in terms of teachings, and the political divide is normally often used to aggravate the differences. If anybody else on the panel would like to address.
Okay. The second question is for Robin and Marwa, who of course addressed the issue of women's rights in Islam and give a very good summary of women's rights. The issue that you didn't address, that one member of our audience did want to know about, is the issue of polygamy and the fact that Islam does allow men to have up to 4 wives.
It does?
Well, first, I'd like to put in some of my personal input. Yes, there's a verse, of course, that addresses this issue, and in general, it restricts us so much that, the average Muslim reading the Quran, trying to understand those verses, would come to the conclusion that God is actually saying, this is the only circumstance that this should take place. It's more restrictive, really, than it is allowing in. I always joke with my husband, I'm like, you can't even handle 1. How are you going to handle 2, 3, 4? Are you kidding me? So it's not something they're advised to do. Actually, to give a more formal, structured reply, polygamy is actually an ancient practice in many societies. I mean, King Solomon, King David, in the Quran and in other scriptures, they've known to have many, many wives. And in the Old Testament, they attested to its legality. And there's even a mention of the wealth distribution of the various sons and daughters of those men. So it's been clearly addressed. Also in the New Testament, there's no explicit command that marriage should be monogamous, nor forbidding polygamy straight out. But also, I'd like to share the verse because I think it will make things much clearer. Okay. You will never be able to do perfect justice between wives or women, even if it is your ardent desire. So do not incline too much to one of them by giving her more of your time and attention and provision, so as to leave the other hanging, i.e. neither divorced nor married. And if you do justice and do all that is right and fear Allah by keeping away from all that is wrong, then Allah is ever oft forgiving, most merciful. So this verse touches on the issue of justice really is to do these women justice is very difficult. It's not an easy situation to tackle. And also, let me hear. The circumstances under which this verse was, I mean, in society at that time, this, as I said, it had already been a practice taking place. So Islam came to kind of control it and keep count. So they give a maximum of 4 women, as before it was many, many more. So it has tolerated it, not more really. And why the circumstances at that time was there were a lot of widows with orphans, and this of course played with the issue of the ratio of the sexes. There were many, many more women than there were men. We can compare these circumstances like in modern times to like war times in Europe, for example. This has occurred when a lot of the young men were out there fighting and lost their lives and left a lot of women widowed with orphans. So this is primarily the condition in which Islam has addressed that issue, that this is one of the solutions, and it could be applied then. And it cannot be really understood, the polygamy issue, apart from those circumstances. You cannot just take it out of context and say, so like other reasons that scholars have talked about, for example, if a wife gets very sick in a way that she cannot be with her husband anymore, he may then choose to take another wife. There are still conditions to that. First of all, this cannot be done in secret. Islam puts it very clearly that the first wife has to know that the husband wants to do that before he does it. It cannot be like a surprise. She has then the choice to either stay in the marriage or leave. And according to Islam, she has the right to be given a divorce. She would have every right. Actually, there was a story about the Prophet. I'm not really sure of what the circumstances were. The Prophet's daughter, Fatima, was married to the Prophet's cousin, Ali ibn Abi Talib. There was talk about him taking a second wife. I'm really not sure. I can, of course, go back and find out. I don't know why, but he did not like it. And I know that story very well. It's authentic. That he did not like that for his daughter, although he's the Prophet of Islam. This is in the Quran. So there is a choice. And believe me, in other cultures, like in Africa, there are women who are for polygamy. They would gladly accept that their husbands go take a second wife, some for political reasons, some for social reasons. Some of them say that even, yeah, she would help out with raising the kids. It's not a single mom, like one mom's job, or it takes a village, you know. And it's so really, sometimes it's cultural. But is the verse there in Quran? Yes. Does Allah say it's allowable? Yes, but under very, very strict conditions. There is also the right for women to stipulate in the marriage contract before the marriage takes place that she is to be given the right that she's not to be a second wife, or I mean that her husband would not take a second wife. It's her right to stipulate. I did that in my marriage contract, by the way. I was like, I need to know, and I'd like to know before that happens. And well, to tell you the truth, I could stand now and say I'm not in this circumstance. I have no idea how I would react if I were to be put in that situation. Right now, yeah, I could very strongly say I would get a divorce and I would never take part, but I don't know. Really, I don't know. But I cannot claim that this is universal. I mean, this may be my opinion. It could be acceptable for some other women, but not for me. And again, as I stressed it, I do have the right to make a choice then. So I could, not give you now the proper answer that solves everything. There is no one correct answer, but for me personally, that's how I feel. And by the way, this is one of the very, very difficult things that I had to deal with when I first decided to become a committed Muslim. I was not always wearing the veil. I just decided to become a committed Muslim 11 years ago, and I'm 34. I mean, I had already been an adult for quite a while. It was one of the really difficult issues, and it just evolves with time. I used to react to it a certain way back then. 5 years ago, I may have changed a little, and now I really don't know. Now I'm a mother of 2. I don't know. I really don't know how I would react. But what's right is right. It's in the Quran, yes. There is like an allowance for it, yes. Under severe circumstances, also, yes. Thank you.
Okay, another question, and I think this is a good question to set out kind of early on. One member of the audience wondered how the news and the media get so much wrong about Islam after hearing you talk. And another one, another person in the audience noted that your description, that is the entirety of this panel's description of Muslim life, seems very different, and in that meaning more liberal than what the media presents. And so this person is wondering if the panel is considered typical, that is moderate or more liberal in terms of interpretation than might other groups of Muslims. So if you could kind of place yourself and maybe speak to this issue of, well, where is the media getting its information and why do you differ so much from the media, and then place yourselves.
Let me do the first part.
We're talking about the media. One thing I noticed, and I forgot I was intending to talk about that, when something happens by a Muslim, violent act, Muslim terrorist, then when somebody shoots Gabrielle Giffords, which was a very sad day, oh, so-and-so. There's no relationship to the religion, okay? When you hear about the Chinese guy who shot students in Virginia Tech, there's no mention of his religion.
Korean.
Sorry, I don't know why I'm on China today. So, you know, that's why. So the media always, when something, I mean, if some crazy guy kills his wife, oh, a Muslim guy killed his wife today. You know, so it's always relating to the religion. And that's a problem. So I understand. I mean, look, Fox News will always say something negative about Muslims and Islam. That's why I don't watch them. So, but in general, you hear that a lot. You know, it relates to the religion, even if somebody is not religious at all. Okay, so that's my point. And somebody else could add.
About
us being liberal, or where are we
Fit in.
I think Harun would be that.
Boy. Why do you guys think we're so liberal? What makes you think that we're such liberal Hoosiers? Come on, Hoosiers are a very conservative state. Red state, right?
No.
It's not in the last.
Oh, that's right. The blue guys came back. That's true. All right. That's true. I got caught. We'll go with the blend of, what is red and blue when you mix it? Which color do you get? Purple. Sort of purple. How about that? In terms of, I'll be honest with you, I really don't like roles, or I don't like labels. So I don't think it's fair for me to classify myself as conservative, liberal, moderate, whatever. And really, I think that's really up to the scholars of Islam to leave that interpretation of our viewpoints. Would they classify that as liberal, moderate, or whatever? What we have presented to you is basically what we have researched from scholars, their interpretations of the Quran and the prophetic teachings, who are generally considered moderate or basically mainstream sources. Now, in terms of basically what you find in the media, and again, it would have been helpful if individuals submitted the question could provide examples of what they mean by conservative or liberal or moderate views, because it's kind of hard for me to gauge from that understanding what we said that kind of gave that idea that we were kind of liberal or moderate or whatever. Generally speaking, I think what you have heard is what you would find from any mainstream Muslim. But again, I don't want to classify or categorize anybody unfairly.
I think yeah.
Okay, so I'll Robin.
I think, you know, just in Christianity, you see the evangelicals, you know, versus maybe the Methodists. You know, Methodists are more, I would say, liberal. Evangelicals maybe have just more of a right, I want to say right-sided view. So it's the same thing in Islam. I mean, you have people who are so strict and follow things so literally. And then, you know, you have other people that say, okay, well, I live in this society and I can't live in a box, so I need to be able to, you know, follow my religion and also communicate and participate in my community. So for us here, that's, you know, that's what we've done. I mean, you know, we want to follow our